So on this webinar, you're going to be discovering how to go from being a business operator to a business owner. So this is actually a brand new masterclass that I'm running, but it's going to reveal how you two can create a business that works for you and not necessarily you working for it, using some proven principles and strategies that are rooted in human psychology. What I would also love to do, if you haven't figured out where the chat box is just yet, or you've not shared where you're at, I would love to know, what do you want to get from today? So you're showing up to this. Obviously, the title itself is pretty obvious, but if there was one thing that you could take from today that would be helpful, then please feel free to pop that into the chat box. Now, this particular masterclass is for people that are already running a business, that want more time, more fulfillment, more money, and less stress. It's not for people that have just got a business idea, albeit there are sort of elements that are relevant, but it's kind of not what it's designed for. People like Janet, who achieved her 3-year goals in 18 months, doubled her business revenue, and had even more time to take off some training. She runs a bunch of different businesses, like Alistair. He said, if you're in search of what's missing in your life and want somebody to provide immediate results to grow you, then Will is your man. Or Emmy, who some of you might recognize. At the time she was on Dragon's Den, she won what was back then the most amount of money that had ever been awarded to somebody on the show. So that's Emmy. But my objective today is to get you to think differently, so you act differently, so you get different results. And here's a little bit about what you're going to learn today. So we're going to be going through the one thing that everyone needs, but almost nobody has when it comes to becoming a business owner, how you can run a businessless business so you get all the perks of running a company without the stress and the hassle, using the North Star thinking approach, the methods that I've used with over 2,000 business owners now to help them live a life that they love, the question that most business coaches first ask that leads entrepreneurs in the wrong direction, why time management doesn't work and what you should do instead, how to avoid the pain and suffering that nearly all entrepreneurs go through, which is what I call the now what dilemma, and put you in a place where you feel more content and grateful, even if things don't quite go as expected. The reason that you don't burn out from working too much, the 12-word sentence that guarantees you more time, 7 facts that will become robust principles in your future, and a 3-part methodology that is ultimately going to keep you on track and progressing. So that's what we're going to be going through. But one of the first facts that I want to show, and of course, 3 special bonuses. So if you stay till the end, there's going to be bonuses throughout, and then you'll end up with the 3rd bonus at the end as well. So fact number 1 is happiness is equal to or greater than your expectations. So happiness is equal to or greater than expectations. The second fact is your performance as a business owner is equal to your potential minus interference. So what we want to do is identify what is that interference, what's getting in the way. And fact number 3 is that activity doesn't equal productivity. So again, these are all elements that we're going to be touching on throughout this morning. What I will say is that a bit of a warning, the people that want kind of overnight success, they want to just get the silver bullet. This is not what this is about. This is a process that ultimately is going to be able to get you results. But I'm just going to be sharing some stuff that's worked very, very well for my clients. So let's get stuck in. So first of all, a little bit about me. So I'm an award-winning business strategist and performance coach, won a bunch of different awards, been up for a bunch of different awards, the author of North Star Thinking, Master Your Mindset and Live a Life You Love. And if you haven't got it already, if you just email mia@willpolston.com, your address, we'll get a copy of the book out to you. Today, I've worked with about 2,000 people, or over 2,000 people now, in a variety of different formats, whether it's one-on-one, small workshops, smaller groups, speaking at various different events. I'm obsessed with learning. So I learn from some of what I deem to be the greatest people in human performance and business on the planet, whether it's people like Dr. John Demartini or Tony Robbins. But as well as applying the personal development element of what I do, I also have my coaching business, but a bunch of other businesses that I own. So I own 22, which is a medicinal mushroom supplement company, Leap, which is a small private equity firm that invests into construction professional services, Super Profits, which is a coaching business specializing in numbers, a video content creation agency, and an M&E company, so mechanical and electrical design consultancy. Outside of work, I like to get up to a few different stuff. Played ice hockey for many years. I like taking on certain challenges that push me out of my comfort zone, as well as getting up in the sky and doing a bit of flying. Just finishing my pilot's license at the moment. But where all this come from and where it started from was when I was a lot younger. I grew up with the belief that money equaled happiness. I saw my dad essentially go through a bunch of stuff that then sort of set me on a path thinking that money equaled happiness. And then 11 years ago, I had a big realization that my real driver was nothing to do with money. It was never really about money. It was all to do with the fact that my dad hadn't achieved certain things he was capable of, and the impact that had on him and my mum and me and my family and a whole host of other people. So from that moment, I immersed myself in personal development, went and just learned everything that I possibly could. And then I ultimately discovered that having all of this information that wasn't joined up was lots of tactical stuff. It wasn't making me efficient and wasn't moving me forward. So I was feeling lost. I was feeling overwhelmed. I was feeling frustrated. I was spending too much time not doing the stuff that I love doing. Maybe some stuff that you may resonate with. But what I want you to imagine right now is, how would it feel if you got your business to a point where you owned it and you didn't have to work in it? Right. So if you wanted to work in it, you chose to do that. If you had exact clarity on not only what you wanted, but the how you were going to get there, and saw the monthly progress of it happening as the months unraveled, how different would your life and business look? What would you be doing differently right now that would get you in that? What would you be doing differently right now to what you're doing right now, to what you're actually doing right now? And how good would it feel to be able to then go and spend the time doing what you really wanted to be doing, whatever that is? Well, this, for me, is the approach that enables that to happen. So I use the term North Star thinking, which is essentially taking the concepts that we're going to be talking about today, but it really boils down to three things. So having absolute clarity, taking intent. So absolute clarity is about knowing where you are, knowing where you're going, and knowing what that roadmap looks like. Intelligent action is action that's aligned with your values and your goals, and active accountability is the steps that's going to ensure that you stay on track. So we start with absolute clarity. So where lots of people go wrong is they only ever set short-term goals. So they might set a goal for a year from now or 3 years from now. And one of the worst things that can actually happen is that they achieve it, right? So they set the goal. This is what I want to do. This is where I want to get to. And then they achieve that goal. And then they go, right, well, now I'm going to set another one. And then they achieve that goal. And then they set another one. And all that's happening is they're kind of pinballing around. And eventually they find themselves having what I call when-then syndrome. You know, when I achieve this, then I'll be okay. When I achieve that, then I'll be all right. When I get this, then I'll be content. And it's just so demotivating, and people end up really, really unfulfilled. So what we get them to do is create what I call a North Star, which is about having a mission in life that's so big that you never achieve it. You detach from the outcome and you focus on the process instead. And this is going to link to the question that I'm going to bring up shortly, which is the question that most business coaches ask, that I believe is the wrong question as the first question. And so we create this North Star mission. Now, there's a few different ways that we get to that, but one of the ways is using the Ikigai method. So Ikigai is a Japanese concept. Just out of interest, I know some of you haven't got your screens on, but has anybody heard of the Ikigai concept? I can see some of you. Anybody that has, put your hand up. Okay, cool. A few of you. Wonderful. So the whole Ikigai concept is, it actually originates off of an island just off Japan called Okinawa. And it's one of the places, it's known as a blue zone. It's where they've got more centurions, people that live to over 100 years old, than anywhere else in the world. Now, all other things considered, health, exercise, and that good stuff, I believe that a lot of it's because they have this Ikigai that they're living by. And essentially, it becomes a mission. So it's a combination, as you can see there, of four main elements: what you love doing, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. And by having this, it means that you can have that constant fulfillment, know that every single day you're moving forward and you're progressing. I talk about having a North Star mission that's the equivalent of trying to empty the sea with a spoon, right? It's something you're constantly working towards, but there isn't necessarily a destination, but there is steps along the way. So there are milestones. So those milestones make up what we call our North Star trajectory. So we still have milestones that we're working towards. So it might be a 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1-year, 90-day goal, but they're now all aligned with that North Star trajectory that we're working towards, so that we're working in the most efficient way possible. Now, the reason that that's relevant is because the wrong question that most business coaches will ask is, what do you want your business to look like in 3 years' time? Or it might not, you can change the year. It might not be 3 years, it might be 5 years, it might be 12 years, 12 months, but they ask that question. And the problem with that question is that you are an entrepreneur, you are a business owner, and business is one part of your life. And what happens is that sometimes they get so obsessed with focusing on what the business needs to look like, they neglect all of the other areas. Now, there's actually 7 areas of life. These are the 7 areas. You've got your social, you've got your health, you've got your family, you've got your mental, you've got your spiritual, which doesn't necessarily mean religion, just to be really clear. You've got obviously the business as part of that, and you've got your financial area of your life. And if you find yourself focusing on any one of those as a number one priority, then you can find yourself neglecting all of them. So when we're looking at building out this roadmap, we're looking at all 7 areas of life. So therefore you are considering and making progress with them in the time that are relevant. So it may well be that, yes, you do prioritize your health for a period of time. So it might have a little bit of a higher priority for maybe 90 days, but it's certainly not going to be neglected or other areas are not going to be neglected based on what you're doing. So what we've done with helping people to create that program and work through that is created really easy to follow workbooks and templates and trainings to make learning and implementing this stuff seamless and easy. And that comes to one of the first bonuses that you guys are going to get. So in helping you getting clear on this North Star, which is ultimately going to help you as what I believe the most important first step for you going from being a business operator to a business owner, is 75 questions that you can go through and answer as part of a worksheet that are going to build that for you. So you're going to get that just by being here today. You're on the masterclass, you're going to get that. Okay. I am going to be doing Q&A at the end, but I'm just curious to know, are there any specific questions in relation to that before we move on, just to kind of check in and see where people are at? Feel free to unmute yourself, or doesn't look like it at the moment. So that's all good. So the next step is intelligent action, right? So this is really now where we're getting into the crux of, well, what are you going to do? So once we've got the strategy outlined, because I believe that too many people go through life sort of flying by the seats of the pants. They haven't got that clear strategy, not just for the business, but for the where they're going in general in life. Then we're going to get into intelligent action. So this is where you're going to really start making some changes from being a business operator to a business owner. Now, the first thing I want to introduce to you is the concept of inspiration versus motivation. Now, I speak with so many business owners that say, "Well, I just don't feel motivated, right? I need some motivation to do the things that I'm doing and all the rest of it," which I think is the wrong question. So I'm going to bring this up and show you this. So every single one of us have a completely unique set of values. Those values in the hierarchy that they're in are as unique as the fingerprint on the end of your finger. When we live other people's values, we find ourselves constantly requiring external motivation. As a coach, I know if my clients are living someone else's values from the language they're using. So if they're constantly saying things like, I need to, I ought to, I should, I have to, that's a really good indication that they're living somebody else's values. When they're living their own values, they're using language like I love to, I choose to, I desire to. They're inspired. Now, if you take the word inspired, in spirit, what's another word for spirit? Energy. They're in their energy. And that brings us on to the fact number 4, which is people don't burn out because they're working too hard. People burn out because they're not spending enough time doing the stuff that they love doing. So that's what we really want to hone in is, even within your business, there's lots and lots of different things that need to be done, but there are certain things that you love doing more than others. Like in my business, in my coaching business specifically, the things that I love doing are coaching. I love speaking. I love creating relationships. I love creating content that's valuable and shareable to people. So they're the things that I want to do. There's loads of other stuff that has to be done in this business that I don't want to do. And in order for me to be able to do those things and for you to be able to do those things and ultimately stay on track with your North Star trajectory, we have to use our time wisely. Fact number 5, if you don't fill your day with high value activities, your day gets filled with low value distractions. If you don't fill your day with high value activities, your day gets filled with low value distractions. Fact 6, there's no such thing as time management, which is relevant to the previous fact. All we can actually do is manage our priorities. The way that we do that and we start making that transition from being a business operator to a business owner is understanding the 4 different time dimensions. We have the dimension of distraction, the dimension of delusion, the dimension of demand, and the dimension of fulfillment. Now, I want a little bit of interaction here if possible. I'm curious to know. So we've got the 4 different areas. So for those of you that I can't see, I'm looking over here, by the way. I know the camera's there because I've got you all on the screen here. What I would love to know, if you were being really, really honest with yourself, so you've got the 4 different time zones, dimension of fulfillment, demand, delusion of distraction. If you were to put a percentage of what you believe that you're spending the majority of your time in at the moment, what percentage would you allocate to each of the 4 areas? I'd love for you to, if you pop that into the chat box, it'd be great to see your answers. What is it that you believe that, so you've got the 4 different dimensions. You've got fulfillment, demand, delusion, and distraction. So the dimension of distraction are things that are not urgent and they're not important. You've got the dimension of delusion, which is things that are urgent, but they're not that important. You've got the dimension of demand, which is doing stuff that's really urgent and really important. And then you've got the dimension of fulfillment, which is things that are important but not urgent. I'd love to know which percentage, if you were to put a figure by each, pop into the chat box. I'd love to know at present, what do you think you are spending your time in each of these? Let's see. So fulfillment, demand, delusion, and distraction, what percentage of your time are you spending in each of these? So I'm hoping everyone's chat looks like you're all typing away. Okay, cool. So Steve, you said delusion 10%, distraction 15%, demand 50%, and fulfillment 25%. Okay, great. Adele, 15% fulfillment, 25% demand, 10% delusion. Okay. Now here's another little fact that I'm going to share. If you are highly stressed, right, and a topic for another day is the difference between, because not all stress is bad stress. There's 2 types of stress. There's distress and eustress, but that's for another masterclass. If you are someone that's highly stressed, I will be almost certain you're spending the majority of your time in the dimension of demand. Because if you're doing stuff that's really urgent and really important, that is almost certainly the case. If you're highly stressed, the majority, in almost every instance, the majority of your time is in the dimension of demand. Just worth knowing there. So yeah, John, okay, 15, 20, 50, 15. Fulfillment 15, Natasha, great. Demand 30. Now, the other thing is as well, is that I'm a realist. There's not a single client, not even myself, that spends 100% of my time or their time in the dimension of fulfillment, right? But what we do want to do is identify what do we want that to be, and then we optimize for what we want it to be. So again, it comes back to clarity, getting clarity. What do we want? What do we want the majority of our time to be? And then we design it for that to be the case. And yeah, so distraction 50%, fulfillment 0, okay, delusion, fine. So here's how we start to identify what that needs to be, is by applying what's known as Pareto's law, right? Most people know it as the 80-20 rule. So 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. And the Pareto's law principle, the 80-20 rule, is pretty much universal. You know, you could pretty much put it down to anything you do in life. So what we want to establish is what's the 20% that you do, the stuff that you do really well that gets you 80% of your results. Because once we've identified that, then we can put in some structure. Why do we want structure? Because structure creates efficiency. Now, for lots of people, the people that are in demand, they're doing stuff that's really urgent and it's really important. More often than not, the reason that we're doing those things is because A, they need to be done, but we haven't got people to be able to share to share the burden with, right? So one of the things that you can look to do is start by creating a company hierarchy. So you go, right, who are the people that I need? And my top tip with this is do not do this with names. Do this with roles. So even if those roles don't exist at the moment, you can do it in an Excel spreadsheet. You can do it on a piece of paper, whatever's going to be easiest for you. You identify who are the roles that I need, what are the roles that I need in order for me to effectively run my business. Right? What does that need to be? Who do those roles need to be? So then we can start to identify um, whether we need to employ people. And what you can also have, and the reason I say roles is because sometimes you can have one person that does two roles, but you want to be really, really clear of who has ownership. So I'm going to share a little, well, first of all, I'm going to share a little 12-word sentence that will change your life, which is, it needs to be done, but I don't need to do it. If you get that printed out, put in a picture frame, stick it by wherever you work, it needs to be done, but I don't need to do it. That will help you in itself take the majority of your time from going from being spending too much time in the dimension of demand to spending more time in the dimension of fulfillment. That one 12-word sentence, it needs to be done, but I don't need to do it. That in itself will be helpful. A little bit more of advanced delegation that's going to help you to be able to become more of a business owner and work out, well, how do I delegate, right? So there's a big difference between delegation and abdication. Abdication is just telling somebody to do something. You're not walking them through it. You're not showing them how to do it. The example that I use is like training a dog, right? If you have a puppy and you took that puppy out for a walk, you wouldn't just open the door and go, off you go, puppy, go and run around and do your exercise, whatever. When you have the new puppy, first of all, you're going to take it out on a lead. You're going to maybe walk to the park. You walk around the park with it on the lead. You come back. Then as the puppy gets a little bit more trained, you then take it down on the lead, but you might take it off the lead. When you get to the park, it runs around, it comes back, and then you put the lead back on. Then as time goes on, you may eventually get to the point where you still go for a walk with the dog, but you don't have the lead. And then eventually you could just open the door, say, hey, go for a run out the front, do whatever, and then it can come back in. But you've taken it to that point. And that's where so many people go wrong with delegation, is that what they do is that they just abdicate. They go, do this, hoping that everything can be done the way that you want it. So a top tip, I actually haven't got a slide for this, but you can write this one down, is the 10-80-10 principle. So 10-80-10 principle is the 10% you do up front. So you basically tell them what you want, and we're going to come on to how you tell them what you want them to do in a minute. Then the 80% that they do, and then at the end, then you have a bit of 10% where you can do a little polishing. That way you don't have that major issue all the time where you say, yeah, but if you want something done right, do it yourself, because they're not doing it the way that you want to be, that you want to be doing it. If you're finding this video useful, please subscribe and hit like. Your likes and your subscriptions really do mean a lot to me. And also, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what it is you like about the video, and if there's any other types of videos you would like me to create. And by leaving your comment, I'll also pick one lucky winner to send a copy of my book, North Star Thinking and Master Your Mindset 2. So it's making it well worth your while. So a little bit of advanced delegation here is just a very, very simple 6-column principle. You write down all the tasks you're doing, the income that is produced per hour, how much would it cost to delegate to get somebody else to do that, how many hours a week you spend doing it. Now, this is the key column, is how much meaning does that task give you on a scale of 1 to 10? To 10 being you really enjoy it, it's really meaningful, 1 being you absolutely hate doing it. Because there will be some tasks that could be really affordable for you to, that it would make commercial sense for you to delegate out, but actually you really enjoy doing it. And when you do this process, you don't just have to do it for your work task, you can do it for your life task. So for example, you might say, well, a task is dropping the kids to school. It produces no income per hour. You could delegate that for, I don't know, what a nanny might cost for a childminder. I'm making it up, £35 an hour. And if you do the work you do, you could be earning £100 an hour. So it would make commercial sense to delegate it and outsource it to a childminder. You spend an hour doing it each day, or maybe longer, 2 hours a day, the morning, the sort of morning school run, the afternoon school run, but actually it's really meaningful for you. So therefore we don't want to delegate that out. That's just as an example. This is really interesting. So for me personally, one of the things that I really quite enjoyed was marketing, until I realized one day that I was spending whatever the amount of time was, let's say it was 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week doing marketing, which was a 7 out of 10. But actually, the thing that I enjoyed more was coaching. So therefore, if I did, so coaching, let's say it was a 9 out of 10. If I took that time out, I could spend more time doing the things that I enjoyed even more. Okay, now a little tip that I want to share with you, and you guys can grab this as a screen grab, is one of the best books that I've ever come across for hiring A players into your business. Is called Who, a method for hiring. Just out of interest, anyone on the call, feel free to put your hand up. Has anybody read Who? Okay, this book alone has the ability to save you hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, millions of pounds a year, and make you hundreds of thousands of pounds a year or even millions of pounds a year just by literally taking this book and applying what it is that you learn from it. So it's a step-by-step guide for hiring A players into your business. It will enable you to, it literally gives you the word-for-word questions to be asking on an interview to end up with A players. And it explains something called a scorecard principle, which I'm going to come on and show you a little hack for in just a second. Now, the reason that this is so relevant is because for those of us that have spent enough time with staff now, we know that so often staff can be a real bugbear. You know, I hear people joke and I always call them on it and go, business would be so much better if we didn't have any staff. Well, I disagree with that, because ultimately it's your staff that enable you to be able to move to become a business owner. What we have to do is turn the finger back at ourselves and go, well, what could I be doing better? How can I be better informing, educating, guiding my team to get the outcome that I want? And that's because, as I shared as fact number one, happiness is equal to or greater than expectations. But my addition to that particular fact or quote is, yes, happiness is equal to or greater than expectations, and most expectations are not communicated effectively. So many of us have an expectation of how we want something done, what the outcome is that we want done, but we don't communicate that effectively. So this is where bonus number 2 comes in. So I'm going to share with you, and I'm hoping this is going to work really easily. Nope, it's coming up on the wrong screen. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and show the other screen. A real simple way of you being able to get access to this really quickly. So what screen do I want now? I want this one. So move you guys over. So but a tip from Who. So they talk about a principle called a scorecard. Now, this is where we need a bit of audience participation. Anybody that fastest finger first that has a business that wants to know how they can hire A players in the business, the first person to unmute themselves and tell me what business you have and what would be a role that you feel that you need to hire for at the moment. Anyone, fastest finger first. Who's coming off mute first? Let's have a look. Not a competitive bunch, are you? I thought somebody's going, yes, I want to be that person. Who's it going to be? Let's see. Or I'm going to pick somebody. So it's up to you.
I'll go for it.
Go on,
Adele with the Marabou Club, just starting a drinks brand, and we're looking to find somebody to do social media.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to, so you can all see my screen. You can see ChatGPT. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if you haven't used ChatGPT, it's AI, it's a large language model. I'm using GPT-4, which I've found, which is like, I think 20 quid a month. The prompts are better when I do this. But what I do, so by the way, this is another little top tip. This definitely isn't the slide deck, but stuff that I write a lot, I'm sure you can do it on a Windows computer as well. I have little keyboard hacks that give me the prompt really quickly. So I have WGS, which I've set up, which when I press enter or space, there we go. It then, because I've programmed it in, please write a scorecard based on the book Who by Jeff Smart and Randy Street 4A. So sorry, Adele, I'm going to have to ask you again. So we said for a social media manager. Is that right?
Social media manager.
Yeah. And for what type of company is it?
It's a drinks brand, ready to drink beverage.
For a ready to drink beverage. Okay. Beverage brand. And is it already operating? Does the company already exist?
The company does exist, yes.
Okay. What's the company called?
The Marabou Club.
Okay. You have to spell that for me, please.
MARA.
Yep.
BOU. Club. CLUB.
Okay. Have you got a website?
No, we're just doing the
right, okay.
the Shopify now, just Instagram.
Okay, cool. So if you have a website, Then what you can then do, I'm going to say called the, sorry, MARA.
BOU.
BOU.
Yeah.
Club, right? So if you had your website, you can put your website in here. All
Oh,
right.
perfect. Okay.
Now, please write a scorecard based on the book Who by Jess Martin Randy Street for a social media manager with a ready to drink beverage brand called the Marabou Club, right? I hit enter. What this is going to now do in a matter of seconds is, and sometimes it needs a little bit of tweaking, but Adele, we're seeing this live in person, in real time of how relevant this is. Most of the time it's 90% accurate. It's going to create a really clear outcome because none of us want to delegate tasks to our team, right? We want to delegate the outcome because it's the outcome that we expect, right? So if we give them a really clear outcome, but with key, really clear, like a mission of what they do, really clear outcomes, and then we look at the key competencies, we can see how relevant this is. Now, when you have other businesses like, well, name the industry, right? We put it in. It will also give suggested KPIs of things for them to work through. This is where you then have to tweak it, which comes back to a bit like the 10-80-10 principle. We're going to set it up with the question. It's going to do 80% of the work, but then we need to do a little bit of the 10% at the end. So let's just see how relevant this is. So would you say, Adele, it would be fair that you want them to manage and grow the Marabou Club's online presence through strategic social media marketing, ensuring high engagement levels and brand consistency?
Sounds pretty good. Yep.
Okay. Now, what I love is that it's already identified high engagement levels, right? It doesn't just want engagement, it's saying high engagement levels. Outcomes that it wants, right? So this is where it's starting to pick specific numbers. You want it to grow the followers across major platforms: Instagram, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I mean, it might be TikTok or Pinterest, whatever else you might be able to, by 30% in the first year. Enhance engagement rates. Achieve an average engagement rate of 5% per post across all platforms within 6 months. Content creation and curation. Develop a schedule for at least 15 high quality posts per week that align with brand messaging and appeal to the target demographic. Campaign measurement. Campaign management. Successfully plan and execute at least 4 major marketing campaigns per year, each aimed at increasing brand awareness and customer engagement. Analytics and reporting. Provide monthly reports on social media performance, including followers growth, engagement rates, and campaign effectiveness, and community interaction. Respond to our customer inquiries and comments on social media within 24 hours, maintaining positive brand image and high customer satisfaction. Would you say, Adele, that is pretty much what you would want from a social media manager?
Can't ask for much more. Yep.
Yeah. And would it be fair to say that there's probably some things on there that if you were briefing a social media manager or you were putting together a job description for this particular person, you probably would have not thought of, but if they hadn't have done those things, then you would have been annoyed. Like, for example, if they were responding to customer inquiries like within 5 days, not 24 hours, that would have been something that would have got on your wick a little bit and frustrated you.
Oh, definitely. Even just the specifics of 15 per week, it's a smart, measurable goal that is outlined and somebody can attain
Absolutely.
that. So yes or no, did you do that?
Yeah. So then you've got the competencies, so all of the things that it wants you to do, and then it gives you some additional considerations, right? That's an example of what's possible. Now you can do this for every role that already exists in your business, and you can start to identify, and it will maybe help identify other missed areas that you haven't considered. If you're using it in Adele's instance, which is actually to create a new role, then what you can do, which would have been a better example if we had the website, because it would take all the information. You can then say to it, now please turn this into a job advert for Indeed with I'm making it up, £30,000 salary. Right, that's just an example. Yeah, so it's then going to go and do this. But what it would have done if we'd have put your website in, it would have gone and then found all of the specific information that it's taken from your what it knows about you and all the rest of it. But it's done a huge amount of heavy lifting for you. But this is so relevant to your existing business because if every single person on your team has really clearly defined missions, really clearly defined outcomes, then it becomes binary. They're either getting closer to it or they're not. Does that make sense? Any questions on that side of things at all? No. Okay. Cool. Has anybody got a role that they're unsure that they think it would work for, that they want to put me to the test on, and see if it would be helpful? Okay. So I'm going to share another thing for you, which is where this becomes really interesting. You can do it for yourself. Yeah. So you can say, I am the managing director. I am the owner of XYZ company. Please write me a scorecard based on the book Who by Jeff Smart and Randy Street. And then you can then identify, right, what am I doing or not doing that I shouldn't be? So it becomes really useful for yourself as well. Cool. Just out of interest, guys, is this helpful so far? Give me a thumbs up if you're finding this helpful so far. All right,
yeah,
wonderful.
brilliant.
Cool. So stop sharing. Let's go back to the where I want to be. Let's move you guys over here. Let's move the chat box there, and let's move that there in case anybody else comes in. Cool. So that's the scorecard template. We're going to be emailing that particular prompt. We're going to be emailing that out to you, so that you're going to have access to that very shortly. So now we're going to talk about active accountability. And the reason that I believe that you require active accountability and making that transition from a business operator to a business owner is because you're a liar. You might not lie to anybody else, but you lie to yourself. You go, no, it doesn't need to be done today. I can wait. That can be done tomorrow. It's all right. I'll do that next month. It doesn't really matter, but it does matter. And we've been conditioned our whole life to be accountable. When you were born, you're accountable to your parents. You go to school, you're accountable to your teachers. You go to work, you're accountable to your boss. Then we go into the big wide world and we wonder why stuff doesn't happen. It's because we don't have accountability. And accountability works like two sides of the same coin. We either want to avoid looking bad or we want to look good. It's as simple as that. Now, one of the easiest ways to create accountability for your team is by having a scoreboard, right? So you will have a scoreboard for divisions, like you have an overall scoreboard, or you will have them for each individual team. So I've grabbed this from one of my companies. This was from earlier in the year. This is actually for the mushroom business. And what we've got there at the top, which is what we always start with, is the input. So the input in this instance is our marketing spend that we're spending. And what we're looking for is the thing that, as an input, is the thing that we have 100% control over, right? So we have 100% control over how much money we spend. You don't start with something you don't have control over. So, for example, you don't say, well, how many leads have we got? How many inquiries have we got? Because there would have to be some sort of activity that you're doing beforehand that drives that. Now, for some people, that will be outbound calls. It will be emails. It will be ad spend. It depends on the industry, but your first row is always going to be an input. Everything else that then comes off that will be what we call an output. But it enables us really, really clearly to see, are we on track or off track, to identify where the bottleneck is, right? So we could see here, we wasn't spending enough money. Well, that's a simple fix. We need to spend more money, because by spending more money would mean we'd hit our website views target. Now, what wasn't working for us was our abandoned target. That was abandoned cart. Now, that meant that what we needed to do was some on-site CRO, conversion rate optimization, to ensure that we had a different abandoned cart rate, and then that in itself would then mean that we end up getting more of the orders that we actually wanted to be getting. So really clearly, really easily, we can see what's going on. These are updated weekly, and what it does is like taking the pulse on your business, right? So you don't have to be involved and integrated. You can see I say in black and white, but it's not all quite black and white, in red or green, what it is that's going on and whether you're on track or off track. So that's one of the ways of doing it. Another way of having active accountability is having a coach, right? Because a coach is there to help you see the blind spots. You can't see the whole picture when you're in the frame, so they can see what you can't be seeing. You're so immersed in it, and that's obviously helpful. Now, another thing with active accountability in a slightly different way is worth remembering. It's the famous Jim Rohn quote, albeit it's been attributed to lots of different people, is you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now, there's a phenomenon known as the crab bucket mentality that you may have heard of. If you put one crab in a bucket and it tries to climb out, the crab will get out. But if you put a whole bunch of crabs in a bucket and one tries to climb out, the others pull it back down. And that may be the case for you. There may be people in your life that are saying things to you that feel like they're pulling you back. Now, the reality is they've probably just got your best interest, but they don't have your mindset. They don't have the way that you think. And therefore, they are judging your future based on their own belief of what's possible for them. So one of the ways that you get around that is by getting around like-minded people. Yeah, you get around like-minded people that are aligned with you, that are on the same mission as you, that have got the same goals of you. So therefore, not only do you feel more filled up because you get inspired by what they're doing, but also you learn from them, from the challenges that they're going through, the challenges that they're having, and you pick up stuff along the way. Now, I'm on a mission, right? I'm on a mission to empower people to transform excuses into results and live a life they love. That, for me, is what this is all about, right? It's about living a life that you love, that is full of growth. It's full of it's full of growth. It's full of contribution. It's full of doing things that are beneficial. So I truly, truly, truly believe that by you achieving your full potential, not only does it benefit you, but it benefits your family, your friends, your community, society, humanity, the universe. Like, it just goes on and on and on. It's what I call the ripple effect. And that's why you becoming a business owner, not just a business operator, is beneficial, because it will have that ripple effect on the people that you care most about, so that you can spend time with them. You know, something I learned years ago, for those of you that with young kids, kids spell love time, right? So if you've got that time to be able to spend with them, do that, your partner, if you could spend more time with your partner, or whoever it is that you might want to be spending more time with, it will be beneficial, which for me will ultimately enable you to feel more energized, more focused, have greater clarity, more fulfilled. And I believe that's where many of you on this call today want to get to. So I want you just to imagine how things could be different in just 90 days time, right? Maybe there's some stuff that I've said that you think, oh my God, yeah, if I put that in place, that could be really helpful. What would that be for you in 90 days time? Maybe you could have the business operating without you in it. You could take guilt-free time off. You could have your problems being solved without you actually, or problems being solved in the business without you having to get involved and fix them. Yeah, you can spend more time doing what you love. You can have more energy. You can feel calmer, feel more content. You'll feel more fulfilled. These are all things that are very, very much possible for you. Now, I do one-on-one coaching, and it's £30,000 a year, right? Now, I realize that's a huge investment, and I want to make this stuff more widely available so that people can live a life they love without being inefficient and ineffective with their action taking. So I've taken every single element that I do with people one-on-one, over 6,500 hours of one-on-one coaching alone, which is a £30,000 year investment if you want to work me one-on-one to get access to that. And I've packaged it into 3 different programs. Now, these programs are battle tested, they're proven strategies, and they work. So you've got one-on-one coaching, which is basically £2,500 plus that a month. My mastermind that I run here in person in Essex, which is a monthly mastermind. And then we've got the Evolve Inner Circle, which is an online program, albeit it doesn't look like that with that particular image, but it's an online program, which is live coaching every 2 weeks, as part of a group, which is £500 plus that, right? And I truly believe that any one of those programs can enable you to make that transition sooner, by going from being a business operator to a business owner. Now, what I will say is that there's a lot of coaches out there that are going to sell you the money, right? They'll say, we can make you 6 figures in however many days, or you're going to make you 7 figures profit and all this stuff. What I've found is that so many of these people that say that stuff don't do it, right? But they sell it to you because it's sexy. Now, whilst the principles that I've gone through with you today aren't quite as sexy as making 6 figures in the next 30 days or 7 figures in the next 90 days, what I do believe is that they are the necessary principles to enable you to get your desired outcome. Now, obviously, I'm biased about these programs, and I know that they change lives. I see it almost every single day from my clients that are using the work that we're doing. And in total, I've now helped thousands of people using this methodology, and it really is an amazing system. So with that in mind, I've got a third bonus for you. But before I tell you that third bonus, I want you to understand that no one can tell you what to prioritize until they know your North Star and your North Star trajectory. So by you getting clear on where am I going in my life, in all the 7 areas, what do I want? What does that look like? No one, no other coach, no other mentor can tell you that until They understand what your priorities are, but that's also including you. You can't make a decision on what really you should be doing until you've got clear on those things. Now, we've only just scratched the surface today. And this process is so powerful and changes everything when it's done right. It really, really does work, but it only works when it's done correctly. So I've got a couple of options right now. Option number one is I let you go with this surface level scratch of the information we've covered in just less than an hour. Or option two is that I work with you properly to implement this. So option two, like I say, it does work, but when it's done correctly. So the third bonus that you've got is a complimentary one-on-one call with one of my top development consultants, which is Adam, and that's for free. Right. So just by being on the webinar here today, that clarity session will go through with you, will help you identify personally, professionally, financially, what does that future look like? We're going to identify what are some of the roadblocks that have been getting in the way, how that's been impacting you, and start to put you on a journey. Now, that's worth £297. And if you want to take advantage of that, which I wholeheartedly encourage you to do, then click the link that I believe, if it hasn't already, is being put into the chat now, and you can book that call with Adam. That in itself is a super valuable session. It's a one-on-one session with Adam for an hour. What he will do at the end of it, if, and it is a big if he thinks that one of our programs, whether it's one-on-one or mastermind or inner circle, would be relevant for you, or you want to know about them, then he will share that information with you. But even if you don't want to hear about them, and you just want to benefit from the call, then I encourage you to jump on that with Adam. But like I say, if you want to find out more about those programs, I'm not here on this webinar today and this masterclass today to sell you the ins and outs of the program. If you're interested, jump on a call with Adam. We can have more of a conversation with you. So ultimately, my mission is to help you transform excuses into results and live a life you love. The results do speak for themselves. I know I shared a few at the beginning, so I'm not going to bring those back up. This is David. In fact, David was actually just sat with me this morning. Been working with him for some time now. He took his architect practice, which was DAP architecture. It's rebranded. It's now known as Scene. It went from £1 million turnover. This year, it will do 3 million quid. He's a lot more fulfilled, and he's lost 2 stone as well. Just as another example of what's possible. So I'll leave you with this. The process works when it's done correctly. So I recommend that you book that call with Adam. But what we are going to do now is jump into a little bit of Q&A. So I'm going to kick off with the first question. But if you want to unmute yourself, for those of you that have got questions, or if you don't want to unmute yourself and you want to put them in the chat box, then feel free. But one of the things that I get asked a lot is I don't know my North Star. In fact, I'm not really clear on what my goals are at all, really, other than I kind of know I want some stuff to be different. I don't want to be feeling how I'm feeling. Well, when we work with people, whether they're on mastermind, one-on-one, or in a circle, we have a 2-hour North Star trajectory session with them. Before that North Star trajectory session, we get you to do a whole load of psychometrics. So we measure your happiness in 20 areas of your life. We measure your business performance in 16 areas of life. We do a wealth dynamic psychometric, which learns your strengths and weaknesses in business. We do a personality test that combines 5 different personality tests. So we also get you to identify your means values and your end values. What this does is get me to understand you better than you know yourself. And then we have that 2-hour session where we basically create your future. So we create the North Star, we build out that trajectory, the 10-year or 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1-year, 90-day roadmap. So we've got a really, really clear crystal plan. Now, what I haven't shared, and I don't normally talk about this because I like it to be the surprise, but I'm going to share it with you guys, is that when we check in and you're taught the process and you check in with your goals every single week of a year, that's 52 times a year you're checking in on your goals. That's 52 optimization points. 52 optimization points. So all of those tiny tweaks lead to quantum leaps. That's why people will do things like achieving their 12-month goals in 3 to 9 months, or people will achieve their 3-year goals in 18 months, or 5-year goals in sort of 2 or 3 years. It's because we're tweaking the approach so much, we're staying so close to what it is that you're doing, that we can make those tweaks and make them relevant. That's something that we do as part of that process to help you get really, really clear right from the outset. But even on the call with Adam, he'll touch on a part of that which will help you get clear in all 7 areas of life, even for the short term. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, hit like, hit subscribe, and please also leave a comment about what it is that you like. I'm going to be picking one of the comments and sending you a free copy of my book, North Star Thinking, Master Your Mindset and Live a Life You Love. So make sure you get that comment.